There's a strong interaction that I've been aware of for a while, but couldn't explain. Let's take a look. Did you catch that? What about this? See, we had the new Finn before we had Poe, and all I knew is that something weird was happening with his unique when Poe was added to the team. Well, I finally understand why this is happening, and that means we can build around it. When we read the text on Poe's unique, in order to understand what's happening, we need to read this text as literally as possible. The key word we need to look at is target. To break it down, take a look at this scenario. What's happening here that makes Chewie so incredibly potent for this is his unique. See, anytime Chewie does damage, he does damage twice. This means that when we use an AoE that hits 5 people, we're doing damage 10 times. This means that the person we're aiming at gets hit by 10% of their health 10 times from Poe's unique, plus the extra 20% HP damage Chewie was already doing anyway. The math is pretty simple. Just count the number of times that you deal damage to anybody, multiply that by 10, and that's the amount of health damage that you're doing to the target. Now, this has some limitations. This only works for light side characters. They have to be inspired, and Poe has to be alive. Poe also cannot transfer inspired to non-resistance characters, meaning our only current way to abuse this is if you have Rey. It's worth remembering that other resistance members can still use this without having Rey. Any AoE on a resistance character will still apply a respectable 50% health damage. Holdo AoE and R2 Flamethrower come to mind. I went through the list of characters who were candidates to abuse this, and the list boils down to 3 people. Chewie as the clear winner, Rebel Officer Leia Organa, and Baze. Most of the characters that could exploit this to a gross degree are unfortunately darkside. Baze's AoE only does damage twice against unbuffed enemies, so it's not a reliable method. Rolo's special does work just fine, but she's pretty low impact for the slot otherwise. So what impact does this have on the game? For Rey on defense, not a whole lot. Rey has to stay inspired between her turns to be able to pass it to someone else. The place where I think this matters the most right now is actually territory battles. Placing Chewie with Rey and TB has one-shot every character I've aimed him at the start of a wave, and inspired lasts in between waves. The beginning of the first wave can be rough, but once you stabilize and get control, the last 3 waves are a breeze. One other side effect is that CG has effectively designed themselves into a corner. Any future light side character with a multi-hit AoE can immediately become problematic. It's something that we'll need to keep an eye out for in the near future. Other than that, line up that inspiration and watch the fireworks.